Hey guys, YouTube World Hunter here. Alright, and now as I continue reviewing these Marvel stinkers, as I continue looking at the Blade trilogy, now here I am with a review for Blade 2. Um, so yeah, like I said, I hadn't seen this film before, ever, until I actually just watched it to make this review. And just like with the first Blade, I really didn't know really what to expect with the film because just like the first film, this really just like seemed to have a very mixed reaction to it. Once again, like on Rotten Tomatoes, the film is like the tomato meter is like in the 50s once again. And so yeah, a pretty mixed reaction once again. So I really didn't know what to really think of this one or what to really expect from it. And like I was talking about, after how the first Blade ended, it made it seem like maybe there was actually going to be like a continuation, and like how the first Blade ended is where like it was going to pick up in the second film. So yeah, I really just wasn't too sure how this film was really going to turn out. And after finally watching this film, I gotta say, uh, this film was all right. I guess. I mean, yeah, I don't think that this really was as good as the first Blade was, but it wasn't like a bad film or anything. But I don't know, it just seemed to kind of be like a an up and down film for me. Really, like there were some parts that I liked, other parts I didn't, that were interesting, parts that weren't. So yeah, it's just all over the place really with this film, but it's kind of interesting. The first Blade, it did seem to just have a relatively simple story to it, where it was just how Blade like thought that his mother had died, and now he's just like a vampire hunter, killing off and hunting down any vampires. So yeah, it just seemed to be like a relatively simple story for the first Blade, and here it seems to be like a very complicated story because yeah, the story for this film it just can get very complicated. Like in this film, Blade joins up with a group of other like type of um, vampire slayers or something, and yeah, they're teaming up to like try to stop this certain group of vampires and just take them down. Yeah, so it's a pretty complicated story but I think that overall, like the film, you know, yeah, like I said, it just seems like very like up and down. Like I was saying, there are some parts that are good, some parts are bad. I did find myself getting bored quite a few times while watching this film. There were like times where I was just kind of like drifting off and just not really paying attention to it. So yeah, it did like get boring at times, but yeah, it wasn't like a horrible film. Like I can't say there really wasn't anything about this film that I liked because I mean were some things I liked. I mean once again, just like the first Blade, it does have some pretty cool action scenes to it, and Wesley Snipes is like just really good once again as Blade, and yeah, once again like the cast overall. I mean yeah, there are some characters that really aren't like that interesting, but yeah, there is like a majority of the cast that still is overall like pretty cool to watch, and they are pretty enjoyable. So yeah, so compared to the first Blade, I would definitely say this film really wasn't as good, but it could have been a lot worse. Like this film really could have like totally just absolutely sucked, and it didn't. Like it didn't like totally suck. Like there were like some things about this film that were still pretty cool to see. So yeah, I can't say that there really isn't like anything to recommend about the film, but yeah, if like you're having me like decide whether or not to really choose between watching the first film or this one, I would definitely say that I would rather watch the first film again. So yeah, but yeah, there is still like if you are like curious enough to kind of like see like a sort of like a different type of story done with Blade movies, I think that this film is at least worth a watch. I think you can at least watch it and just see whether or not this would really interest you, and if you really do think that this really is like still a good story to tell, and if it is a good movie. Me, I think it is still like an alright film. I mean, not as good as the first one, but still could have been a lot worse. So yeah, a relatively decent film, I think. So I would probably give this film, I don't know, around maybe like 2.75 stars out of 4. I mean, once again, not really like the first play, not really something that's like an absolutely total fail, but just yeah, when you compare it to like many other films based on Marvel properties, just yeah, there's going to be like a lot of them that are going to be like ahead of this film in terms of how good they are. So that's really the best way that I can really put it. So yeah, so this film came out in 2002. So yeah, it was released like 4 years after the first one, but yeah, it said only 2 years after. So yeah, the film is set in 1999. So yeah, and yeah, like I was just saying earlier on, like that stuff that happened at the end of the first film with her Blade is like was confronting another vampire. That doesn't carry over to this film at all. Like, there's nothing about that in this film at all. It really is just like it starts off in a completely different premise. So yeah, there really is not any continuation from the ending of the first Blade in this film either. So yeah, okay. So yeah, I think I've like gone on about like what the film has and like the like how it acts as a sequel enough. So yeah, so I guess I'll just jump right into the premise of the film. All right. So like I said, this film is set like 2 years after the events of the first film, and now like Blade is like searching in Prague, Hague, Hague to find his mentor Whistler, who of course like at the in the first film, it did appear that he did die, but yeah, in this film, it's like revealed that after the attack with Frost and the Vampire Pack, what happened to Whistler? He didn't actually die, but he was just turned into a vampire himself. And then Blade like found Whistler in a vampire safe house inside an hypnotic like tube, and Blade then ended up reviving Whistler by giving him like an antivirus vampire serum to like revert him back to his human form. And then once Whistler was revived, and Whistler is still played by Chris Christopherson in this film. Oh yeah. Then Scud, who is now Blade's new weapon creator, he even like had doubts about Whistler actually becoming human again, but then like and when Whistler was revived, he like ended up like going after Scud. But then like there's like then like meanwhile it also shows that there's now a pandemic known as like the Reaper virus that's spreading through the vampire community, unbeknownst to Blade, and then it's shown that like infected vampires are now being turned into these this mutation of vampires known as the Reapers, who are like immune to like all sort of vampires' weaknesses, with the exception of the ultraviolet light that like kills human. And then yeah, it shows that these Reapers kill humans and turn any vampires they feed on into Reapers as well. Yeah, yeah, and then like then it showed that a vampire known as Lord Eli Demaskinos, he's like unable to control the Reapers, and so then he like then is set out for Blade's help, and so he sends two of his emissaries, Acid and his daughter Assad. Yeah, I'm like mispronouncing that, along with his daughter Nisa to seek Blade's assistance, and once they confronted Blade about it, then and Damaskinos and his human familiar lawyer Karel Kunin like explained to Blade that there's this vampire named Jared Notmock that became infected with the Reaper virus and is now purposefully feeding on other vampires that is like resulting in an outbreak of the virus. And so Demaskinos then just warned Blade that if that after Nomak is done feeding on all the other vampires, he'll begin to feed on humans as well. And so then Blade then he was reluctant, but then he agreed to help Demaskinos and his uh, vampires to help stop Nomak. And so then Assad then introduced Blade to his group that was known as the Blood Pack, who were like a group of vampires trained for the sole purpose of killing Blade. And yeah, the Blood Pack consists of Reinhard, Chupa, Snowman, Verlaine, and Lighthammer as well, and Priest. And so then, and yeah, they all then joined forces. But after Reinhardt made a racial remark to Blade, Blade then just humiliated Reinhardt and planted an explosive charge on the back of his head. Yeah, and then eventually, then the team then set out to try to find Nomak, and so they then investigated one of the largest nightclubs that was called the House of Pain, that was frequented by vampires. And then they ended up encountering the Reapers, and then they found out that the weapons are completely ineffective. And then at one point, no man actually was able to attack a Reaper, but Priest ended up being ambushed and bitten by a Reaper. And then Nomak then appeared, and then he was holding Nisa hostage, and then Blade then attempted to save Nisa, but had and he revealed Nomak is well, yeah, it was revealed that Nomak was just as strong as Blade, and he did have the ability to quickly heal from any sort of attack. And so then, yeah, Nomak then started to gain the upper hand on Blade, but he was forced to retreat after a burst of sunlight reflected off of Blade's sword and burned Nomak, and then he fled. And then, yeah, Priest ended up being infected by the Reapers. And so then Blade and the others really had no choice but to kill him. And then Lighthammer also ended up being infected, but the Scud also ended up just barely surviving a Reaper attack after he had to use UV lights to scare them off. And Whistler ended up deserting his post also. And so then Whistler then revealed that he actually did follow a Reaper lagging behind, and he saw it trapped in a large sewer entrance. And then the group then took that Reaper back to the safe house for observation. And as they were testing the Reaper, and they ended up dissecting the Reaper after it died from dehydration, and then or thirst, I guess I should say, not really dehydration, but yeah. And then it was revealed that a lot of the Reapers tend to burn if they don't feed within 12 hours. Hours in, they also have an additional layer of bone that ends up protecting the front of the heart. I guess it's similar to a sternum, and that leaves their sides of the heart unprotected, but the Reapers are still vulnerable to sunlight. And so then, after they they learned about it, then Whistler and Scud then created had UV projectors for the entire team, and then Blade stated that their best edge is to search the Reaper nest in the sewer at dawn. And then yeah, and then as they were searching for the nest, a Lighthammer then ended up succumbing to his infection, and he ended up attacking and killing Snowman. And then he was chasing Verlaine up a manhole ladder before they both ended up dying of light exposure. And Chupa ended up turning on Whistler and attacking him, but he ended up dying when a group of Reapers ended up arriving, and they were attracted to his sin and ended up just devouring him. Yeah. And yeah, Azad ended up being dragged underwater and killed. And then And then like Whistler was also like trying to escape, but Nomak ended up stopping him and then revealed information about how Damaskinos and gave him a royal seal ring. And then Blade then arrived and he was able to kill all the Reapers with the UV emitter hitter pack, except for Nomak. And then, yeah, he was able to rescue Reinhardt and Nisa. But then Damaskinos and his people ended up turning on Blade, and they ended up stunning him and knocking him unconscious. So yeah, I guess kind of like a similar thing to what happened to Blade in the first film. Like his mother, of course, was like with a Frost, and then like yeah, turned on him, and then yeah, Blade then like ended up being overpowered and attacked and captured, and I guess it's a similar thing here where like where Damaskinos and his people also ended up turning on Blade and knocking him out cold, overpowering him. Yeah, and then yeah, Damaskinos then like revealed that he actually was the creator of the Reaper virus to create like a new race of vampires that are actually based on Blade, and Nomak was just a failed experiment by him. And then Whistler then just rebutted all of Damaskinos' lies by throwing the ring at his feet and demanding the truth. And then after Nisa picked up the ring, Damaskinos then confirmed that Nomak is actually his son, and Scud also like revealed himself to be a familiar loyal to uh, Damaskinos, and he works with Reinhardt. But then, yeah, Blade then and said that he always knew Scud's true allegiance, and he ended up killing him with that explosive charge that he placed on Reinhardt before, which like failed on Reinhardt, and when it was removed, then of course Scud was holding it, and then Blade detonated it and destroyed Scud. Yeah, and then Damaskinos then and ordered a dissection on Blade to learn how they can actually replicate his abilities. But then, after Nisa confronted Damaskinos about his lies and regarding Nomak and the blood pack, that well, yeah, regarded the blood pack, and then Damaskinos then just stated the survival of the vampire. He's actually like willing to sacrifice anything for the survival of the vampire race, which includes his own family. But then, yeah, eventually, like as during the dissection of Blade, then Whistler was able to rescue Blade and actually like bring him into like a blood pool to revive him and regain his strength. Another thing similar to what happened in the first one, where Blade was sucking like Karen's blood to revive him. Yeah, I guess like around like the last 30 minutes of the movie is kind of like where they really do like take elements from the first film and sort of like reuse them again, with Blade getting betrayed on and overpowered, and then when it looks like he's gonna die, he ends up being revived by another character. So yeah, I guess like in the last 30 minutes of the film is really where they start to reuse a lot of elements from the first film. Yeah, but then after like Blade like regained his strength, he was able to kill Reinhardt and his men, and eventually then Nomak then ended up tracking Damaskinos to his heliport, and he ended up killing him for revenge. And as Nomak was dying, then Nisa offered herself to Nomak, and then Nomak then ended up infecting Nisa with the virus, and hers when you drink her blood, and then Blade then just confronted a Nomak, and then yeah, the two of them then went to battle, and then eventually then Blade used his broken sword and just stabbed Nomak's chest into the side of his heart that was talked about before. How um, the heart is unprotected and protected and stuff. So yeah, Blade then just stabbed Nomak in that area of the heart, and then as Nomak was dying, then he was like just starting to suffer, and then he just ended up committing suicide by just shoving the sword all the way into his heart and ended up dying. And then, yeah, Blade then tried to save Nisa. He took her outside to try to revive her, but she ended up dying as she watched the sunlight before she can fully change. And so, yeah, Nisa ended up dying. But then, yeah, then the movie then just then cut to in London where there's this vampire rush that Blade had actually like encountered at the beginning of the film when he was in Prague, and then he just ended up killing Rush by just throwing his sword like right at him, and then yeah, and then as soon as like a Rush was stabbed, then the movie cut to credits. So yeah, I guess like another sort of thing to just kind of like give him like another send off, like have played like being acted one more time after like the main premise of the film, the main story had ended. So yeah, another like reused element from the first film as well. So yeah, like I said, it is a pretty complicated story for this film, especially like compared to how simple the story for the first film was. So it's a pretty complicated hated story overall, but and yeah, there are like some things about the film that really are kind of boring. Like I said, there are some scenes that are really good and some that really are pretty boring. But yeah, and also I had also said like the effects in this film, like they are like overall better than the first film. Like they do look like a little better than the first film was. Yeah, I talked about in my review for the first film how like when the vampires were killed, the effects really like were like pretty cheesy. But here they do look better. Like they're not still like not like totally perfect, but they still do look better. Yeah, but yeah, and yeah, like I said, I mean, it is like still some like good elements. Like I said, the fight scenes in this film they are still like pretty good, and Wesley Snipes he still is really cool as Blade. And yeah, it just yeah, and especially like that last fight scene with Blade and Nomak. I mean, it is like pretty cool. Yeah, just like whenever the two of them do fight in this film, it is like cool to watch. So yeah, this film does still have some cool things to see. And yeah, it does have like some good elements to him, but yeah, like I said, I do think that the first film is overall better. But if you are curious enough to just like see a different type of story done with Blade than the first film did, I think this film is still worth a watch. So all I can really just say is, if you're curious enough, check it out and draw your own conclusion to it. So like I said, 2.75 stars out of 4, or a decent film. I think like it is an alright film. But I would just personally think that I would rather watch the first one again. All right, so yeah, so I guess that's my take on it. So not a terrible film at all, but yeah, I mean it's not just like it's an all right film, like not a like any masterpiece really, like the first film. Well, yeah, like the first one wasn't a masterpiece really, and neither is this one. But yeah, like I said, it's not horrible. Like it could have been like a whole lot worse. Like this film could have just like been an absolutely dumb film and just it all be jumbled up. But for what they managed to do with it, I think they did a decent enough job with it. All right, so I guess that's all I can really say about this film. So if you're curious enough, check it out and draw your own conclusion to it. Alright, so yeah, I guess this does it for my review of Blade 2. So I hope you guys did enjoy this review, and stay tuned up next as I complete the Blade trilogy with a review of Blade Trinity coming up next. So stay tuned for that coming up, and some more of these Marvel Stinker reviews. There's coming up as well. So yeah, stay tuned for more, but yeah, in the meantime, I hope you guys did enjoy this review, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.